Hi, everyone. As I said, I'm a professor at Birmingham University. What's great is I've been working and teaching operations, supply chain management, and procurement for pretty much over 25 years now. I know it doesn't look like I'm that old, but that is the truth. And the last 2 years, I've been using different simulations from real game, really to great effect in terms of to enhance my teaching. I'm really happy to be here to help share my experiences. Also to get us to talk about how we can enhance specifically procurement expertise and experience through using games like business simulations like real game. I think what I've really been interested with myself in many of the subjects I teach over the last 25 years is to increasingly try and map the skills and competencies required by business. I mean, that's what training and teaching is about. And also trying to link it to teaching topics and increasing the method in which I deliver that. So in the past, maybe I would have done a lot more class-based teaching using PowerPoint presentations. But what we're starting to see is a need to engage students in a different way. And it was just interesting. I was lucky enough to be sitting in Gothenburg in Sweden, a fantastic conference this week. And I sat in on a really interesting paper. And it was about research into the skills and topics that were specifically needed by supply chain employers, including procurement employers, and what those skills, what they needed. And what came out of the discussion was actually in today's AI-driven world, it's less about just learning about knowledge. Yeah, of course, we need to have understanding and knowledge of concepts, but it's more about developing competencies, the competencies that employers want. And of course, there's been many crossovers with my own discussions with practitioners, as I said, whether that's in operations, supply chain, or more specifically procurement. And what we've got here is a list. It's about things like analytical ability. Yeah, can students understand and take large sources of data and not just use tools, but actually have the skill sets to look at data in a meaningful way. Increasingly, and this is really important, and a lot of this will come out again, I think, when we go through that simulation, it's the soft skills. Yeah, that's critical, a critical component. Things like financial acumen, strategic thinking, negotiation skills, and ethical judgment, and so on. What I'm trying to do as a teacher is to make sure that my syllabus reflects the key topics within the subject. A list of topics. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just going to illustrate one. So if we take the first one here, procurement strategy, maybe as part of that, we want to emphasize the strategic role of procurement. Yeah, that's fair enough. And how strategic that is within organizations. And we might then want to move on to, say, talking about sourcing strategies and eventually supplier selection. And within that, I would typically then teach things like weighted supply selection and analytical hierarchy process. And I will come back to this later when we actually look at the simulation. But actually, in doing so, it depends upon how I want to introduce these topics. And the method of teaching is really important. And we can develop many of the competencies. So remember the list before. So for instance, the soft skills. So how will I develop the soft skills? Well, in the simulation, we put them into groups of teams working together. They need to therefore work in teams. They need to present their analysis potentially in the form of a presentation. Therefore, the simulation is allowing us to explore those competencies, not just the subject matter. There's plenty of scope to develop their analytical abilities. And again, Team and I will explore that as we go through. Also, financial acumen. Again, there's lots of financial data that we'll show you in the simulation, showing again how you can develop that. And in particular, I think the strategic thinking, having this view of procurement, how it fits into the entire operation and the entire supply chain is a critical part.